6 o'clock. I call this meeting, or special meeting of the Columbus Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. And looks like the first order of business is to swear in new board members.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Robert Russell,
I, Robert Russell,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute
I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of Columbus ISD Board of Trustees
the duties of Office of Columbus ISD Board of Trustees
of the State of
of the
Texas
State of Texas
and will to the best of my ability preserve,
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend the Constitution and laws
and defend the Constitution and laws
of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
Michelle? You'll raise your right hand and swear after me. I, Michelle Eden,
I, Michelle Eden,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully
the
execute
duties of the office of Columbus ISD Board of Trustees
the duties of the office of Columbus ISD Board of Trustees
of the State of Texas
of the State of
and
Texas
will to the best of my ability
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States and of this state,
of the United States and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, y'all. And we'll take the time to say thank you to Mr. Joel Usher for his time on the board, his service, and Mr. Steve O, who's not here with us. We appreciate everything y'all done. And,
Thank y'all for having me. Thank y'all for allowing me to be able to serve. If you need me,
one more time.
one more time. One more time.
All right, thanks.
So,
I guess our new board members. Y'all want to come up and take a spot? Okay, we will now go into a brief closed session to realign the board officers. Are we going?
So I guess item 3 was the elected board officers. The new alignments are as followed: myself, Bo Schobel, as the president, Scott Orange as the vice president, and Dorothy Wastrick as the secretary. Which brings us to action item number 4. Conduct a public hearing to discuss the annual report of CISD's performance and Texas Academics Performance Report. Dr. Miller.
All right. Thank you. Good evening. So I'm going to discuss this very briefly, the table report, and then if anybody has any questions, we can open it up. So our there are 7 sections to the annual report. There is the first part that has our campus accountability data, which we did not do STAR last year, EOC, so we won't have that this year. There's the financial report. It's always a year behind. We have our accreditation status. We have our campus improvement plans, district improvement plans, our performance objectives, report on violent or criminal incidents on campuses, then how our students are doing. That's a staggered report, one full year after they have left us to go into college and universities, and then the glossary at the very end. So, like I said, the very first part is of the TAPER report is a comprehensive list of all the different scores, and of course we did not have that last year. So we're going to skip on through. Then it talks about our letter grade, special ed, determination status, ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, and then if we got any distinctions, which of course we did not because we didn't take the test. So the front cover of the TAPER report looks like this. As you can see, where it says the accountability rating, it says not ready to declare a state of disaster. We meet requirements in special ed, and this is a little bit misleading. We did offer the ASVAB, but we just offered it to our juniors, and if you don't open it up to all grade levels, then it is coded as not offered. And so it was offered to our juniors. This year we've corrected that, and it will be offered to all grade levels.
And the plan was to offer it to all grade levels in the spring. We offered it to the juniors in the fall, and then COVID.
So then the next part of the TAPER report was the attendance rate, annual dropout rate, and then 4-, 5-, and 6-year extended graduation rates and graduation profile. So our attendance rate, we were slightly down, and this is again staggered. We were slightly down from the previous year, but we were still slightly ahead of the state and the Region 3 percentages. Our annual dropout rate was a little bit higher. It was even with the state, but a little bit higher than the other districts in Region 3. There we go.
That's one of yours. That's one of yours.
This is his PCS. It's awesome. So now it is our graduates after they have left us. And it compares again staggered. So we were slightly lower than Region 3 in the state, but right there we increased from the previous year from 42.6%, almost up to 10%. And then the last one is the graduates that without having to take a class developmentally to prepare them. So they have to take the class, pay for it, but it wouldn't count as any credits because it's getting them prepared for college classes. And so you can see where we were on that. We stayed about even on that, comparing those 2 years. And then at the end of the TAPER, at the end of the data section, it talks about the demographics of our students and of our staff and the years of experience and what kind of programs we offer. Then section 2 of the TAPER is the financial section, and it is also staggered as well, and it covers these things. And there is a link, I think it's on page 118 of the report, where you can click on it and get more in-depth information. It has it for the district, and it also has it for each campus. And then our accreditation status. So look that up, and we were accredited, and we received a B rating for 2019 accountability. Then our campus performance objectives, focusing on the different areas where we want to improve and focus and bring up our scores on our campuses. Then this report on violent and criminal incidents, it's a very easy one, all zeros, which is nice, all zeros. So nothing to report in that area. Post-secondary institutions, and again, this one's delayed slightly. And so you can see how many total graduates in a 4-year, 2-year. It also gives you how it's broken down in their first year in public higher education in Texas, their GPA. And then the glossary kind of gives you more information than you ever wanted to know, but it is there, and it goes into greater detail than this presentation. Okay, we're gonna get it. In compliance with the Texas Education Code, it will be posted within 2 weeks after this meeting. We also will have paper copies available to anybody that wishes to have one. And if you have any questions or more information, you can contact me here, or it is a public hearing. If you have any questions, you can ask me now.
Questions, comments? Okay.
All right.
And with that, we will adjourn the special meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
want this.
Yeah. Or no, does Amber want it, or is she gonna run this?
It doesn't matter.
No, because you're gonna run it off your
I got, oh,
computer.
no, no, I just got it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and then we'll just go ahead and go straight into the regular meeting. I call this meeting of the Columbus Independent School District to order. Let the records show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notices of this meeting have been posted in accordance with the Texas Opens Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We'll start, Stan, with the, I'm sorry, with the invitation first.
Pray with me. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this opportunity to address you this evening, Lord. We acknowledge your sovereignty. We're grateful for all you've done for us in the past. We're grateful for the great blessings you've given us, especially our wonderful little school and all those that participate. We pray now for our students, our custodians, lunch workers, our teachers, our administrators. Father, everyone that does the hard work that makes the success of this school such a wonderful thing. Father, we just pray that as this year continues and gets ready to close, that it will be one that, Father, will find success, we'll find within ourselves and within our attitudes, Lord, a sense of joy and comfort and strength. Father, as we look forward to the end of this terrible pandemic and how it's affected our students and our schools, and Lord, we just pray soon it will be over. We're grateful for the vaccine. We're grateful for all the frontline workers that have made all this so much sacrifice for so many people. Lord, now as this new group begins anew, we pray for our new members. We pray that you will watch over them, strengthen them. We pray for your insight and wisdom, Lord, as we strive to make Columbus School District the best it can possibly be. Give us courage, strengthen our commitment as we move forward. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay,
Thank you, Pastor Carl.
thank you very much. And then now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance followed by the Texas Pledge. Switch on. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, that brings us to, I guess we have any open forum. Next act, do you have any public participation today?
Yes, sir, we do not.
No public participation, okay. Brings us next to communications reports. Letter A, campus reports.
Campus reports and financial reports are in your board book, but if you have any questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on campus reports or board reports? I mean, financial reports, sorry. No? Okay. Moving on to item C, softball field update.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
It's, we're getting down to punching it out, maybe late this week or early next week. Everything is in. They're gonna run the air conditioners and the heaters, Wednesday, Ben said. They're putting the batting helmets in the dugouts and the equipment racks in there. The speakers are hooked up. They done tested them. Probably Thursday, they'll seal coat the concession stand and dugouts with some tree remover. Pretty much, they've had one architect come through above ceiling inspection in the concession stand. He said it was fine. A few items that we're gonna probably they'll have to cut some bolts off and move some insulation, and then they'll put the rest of the ceiling in the concession stand and the restrooms. Pretty much, that's about it. I mean, we're ready to play. Lights all work. There's a few punch items that we're gonna walk you through, probably, like I said, late this week or maybe first part of next week, and knock it all out. Y'all got any questions?
I was talking with, I had a long conversation with Coach Sherman today. He's really excited about it. Just about all the capabilities with the lights. And he said he can run the lights off his phone. And they're just instant on, instant off because of the LEDs now.
They're instant on, instant off, and plus, I mean, you can turn them from 100% to 25%.
And he can do it all on his phone. He's just super excited. He sent me an aerial drone of it the other night and it looked phenomenal.
Yeah, I told Seth that Jamal, it's the very first project I've ever seen that the actual product turned out better than the architectural rendering. Like, it is gorgeous.
It looks like a picture.
Yeah.
If you get in the stands and look at it, it looks like it's painted out there. Everything. It really went pretty smooth the whole way. I think we didn't have many hiccups at all. Some of the stuff, like we changed the entryway, interned it, and added some more concrete. Like I said, even in the dugouts, I took the wooden post out and I put galvanized 4x4 post in it. A few items that I thought was necessary. But other than that, everything else is really turned out. The concession stand, the restrooms, I think the women's restrooms has 7 or 8 stalls in it for the women, and men have 3. That's they're big restrooms, and they got the family restroom, the concession stand. Everything's got air conditioner and heater in it. It's all controlled with thermostats inside the concession stand, and that's pretty much what we've done at the football field. At one of them, we got them all in one area and controlled. They got the batting cage. The nets are up. They have to come this week and cut the doors in it so you can get in and out of there. But that's pretty much done there. There's not a whole lot left to do.
And we finished with all the inside part of the concession stands?
Mm-hmm. They're gonna knock that all out this week. I mean, it's all, inside the concession stand. I mean, you got a 3-compartment sink and a hand washing sink. We'll have to get, I don't know if the Booster Club is gonna run that during the games, if they get with Coca-Cola or they go to Sam's. We need to buy refrigerators. I need to talk to Gary on that. You know, 'cause I left that all out. I didn't put nothing in there because I really don't know what they're gonna do. You know, what they're gonna want to sell and stuff, and what they're gonna need. I didn't put an ice machine in there. We got one right across the street. You know, can use that if they want ice. I don't know what. Most times they're gonna sell. It'll be bottled water or bottled drinks. And I had to put a chain link fence behind the stands. I didn't want to put a chain link fence behind the stands, but they said it's 88. So it's just going to be a nightmare to clean. I got one gate that's about 6 foot that you have to get in there, but you have to crawl in there on your hands and knees to get all the trash out. I left about this much to blow the trash out on the backside, but that's pretty much it. We had to put the fence up. Other than that, if the only way you're going to see that game is by sitting in the stands. Unless you park over there by that Lutheran church, there's about a 10-foot area you can see the game, but that's it. Other than that, it's totally closed up. Right now, everybody's going to probably park in the Marley Getting Center over there. We got the crosswalk marked off already to enter. And they'll just take it, like I said, down the road. We got that big lot right behind it that we can eventually concrete, gravel, or whatever, and park vehicles back there. You're going to have to do one or the other, because when it's wet, you're not getting back there. It's just no bottom. But that's down the road. I mean, they got plenty of parking on the other side. The stands, like I said, everybody asked me, how big are they? I said, well, they hold 500 people. I mean, it's pretty much the same as what we had over here. Just a lot nicer looking.
And ours.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
Thank y'all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item D, review of CISD staffing study. Dr.
Sorry. So in October, we conducted a staffing review from TASB. And this is kind of just to give you an idea of what we did and what they found. And you have the actual staffing review in your school board Google Drive. So you have the actual review, but I just highlighted it. So what they did is they collected data, and they collected data on how they met with every principal and director to see how we do things and our processes. And then they interviewed people to get their information. And then from that, they built an analysis. So they compared us to, and you'll see other districts who look like us, other districts in Region 3, and compared us to the benchmark, which is where they say we should be. And I'll explain how they formed that. And then they gave us ideas to align with the benchmarks and to be able to meet the needs of what we want to do. So it's a more efficient way to look at how we spend our money. And these are the districts that they put in as our comparison district. And how they try to match us is they match us not by personnel, but by actual number of students, and those students look similar. So our economically disadvantaged, our LEP population, our special ed populations are roughly similar. So they try to find the districts in the state of Texas that look most like us, and this is who they came up with. And if you look, we look at ours, our total personnel, and you can look at the difference between our personnel and the number of students compared to the number of students that some of these other districts have and their personnel. So what we wanted to do is make sure that as many people that we employ are in fact, are we equally staffed? Do we need to increase our staffing? Do we need to reduce our staffing? And they base everything on our numbers. So we're kind of right in the middle of all of the numbers. So we have some that are more economically disadvantaged, some that have more special ed, but we're kind of right, we're the sweet spot in between. Except the special ed, where I think we're close to the top. And this is, in a nutshell, where they compared us to the state, and which is in red, and the average in peers. So they compared our professional support staff, our campus admin, our central office admin, our educational aides, our auxiliary staff, and total personnel. And in some cases, we were more than the state, and you have to realize that the state has very large districts that employ, have much bigger classrooms, because they can't employ as many teachers, and not as close as we are. And the only area that we were actually above state and region is the number of teachers that we have within the our district. So everything else we were below region and state. So why do we benchmark? We benchmark to see how efficient we actually are, and can we find ways to both save money and make our district work better? And the benchmarks that we use in this analysis ranged from square footage maintained by our maintenance crew as well as our custodians to the distance and number of riders our bus has to the number of meals that we serve at each school compared to the number of hours our ladies put in at each campus. So for instance, we wanted to look, I just put one of the benchmarks up there, and it's Curriculum and Instruction Department, and you can see Columbus is located on the far left, and they compare what we have to what other districts have in total personnel. And we have, in curriculum and instruction, we have one grade, we're larger than almost most districts except the very large district like LaGrange, whereas we have 4 members, whereas most districts have 3. However, we added a new position this year, Director of Instructional Technology. But if you look at some of the other districts who have more personnel, Wharton has 9. A lot of them have instructional coaches and technology specialists. And that's an area that, now that we're one-to-one, that we're thinking that we need to be able to learn to address. And one of the ways that we can address it is by some of the savings that we can get from some of the suggestions that the staffing survey has put out. So the first thing that they looked at is campus admin and support staff, and they said to consider adding 1 counselor at elementary school. The benchmark for counselors is 1 counselor per 350 students. And at the elementary school, we have 674 students for 1 counselor. At the junior high, we have 340, so we're below. And at the high school, we have 255 to each counselor. So if you took our overall district, we would meet. However, what they did omit was that we have a special education counselor who counsels across the district at both CES, CJS, and CHS, and they didn't include her in the overall counseling. And if you included that, we feel that we do in fact meet the criteria. So they also looked at our campus admin and per district. So you can see some of the districts that look like us, we're a little bit above the average of our peers. Some of these districts do not have 3 campuses, right? They only have 2, so they only have 2 principals. But the one area that we have something that other districts do not happen to be at a principal we have on our DAEP campus. So the fact that we have CAS and a principal there, that's the additional 1. So if you take that off, we're right on where everybody else is. Now, some of those districts have DAEPs. Some of those districts employ a assistant principal on a campus as the person who manages their DAEP, but we do something different. So that's really the only difference there. This showed us our counselor comparison, and again, it says we have 4, but they didn't include Nicole, which would give us, they proposed change of 1, but they didn't take into effect that we already have that person there. And our peer counselors are relatively the same as we are. If you look at where we are and where everybody else is, that we're at 4, we're really at 5, and everybody else is at 3.8. But if you look at some of those schools, you can tell if they only have two schools, or like Onalaska, Ingram, they only have 2 counselors, so they have to have just 2 schools. But they have less students than we do. But if you look at us per number of students and staff, we're at 2.6. Everybody else is at 2.4. So we are just slightly above it. So it's not like it's a big change. Clerical and professional staff, they said to consider absorption of 3 non-campus clerical positions through attrition. And they said that the non-campus staffing benchmark is 4 per 1,000 students. Because we're at 1,500, they had estimated that we should have 6, and we have 9. So I wanted to show you what the that's the campus clerical is, and I want to show you what the non-clerical staff that they said that we could reduce from. So we have 9 non-campus support staff, which includes a PEAMS coordinator, a superintendent secretary, and then in the business department we have accounts payable and payroll. We have a receptionist in the admin building who also happens to be the transportation, the food service secretary, so you see half and half. We have a human resources specialist, benefits specialist, and secretary, and then we have a secretary at the athletic department, the special ed department, maintenance and transportation share a secretary. So they base their number strictly on data by number of students, not necessarily on what we do. So their recommendation isn't like you need to do this. Their recommendation is, well, by the number of students you have, that's what we recommend that you have. But in our district, I mean, we split people, so. Our educational aides, they said to consider implanting the proposed educational aid staffing model. They wanted to move 4 general education aides to pre-K at Columbus Elementary to be able to to keep our numbers down low. If you look at our current educational aid staffing, our numbers are in that subtotal. We have 5 at the high school, we have 8 at the junior high, and we have 16 at the elementary school. So their recommendation concerns moving some of the aides that we have. We are actually 2 aides short by number of students at the high school. We are 3.5 aides over at the junior high. It's pretty tough to be a half. And we are 6 aides over at the elementary school. But they wanted to repurpose some of the aides that we have, and I'll share that with you later, but to get our numbers down closer to 22. So this is their proposed educational staffing model, is that we actually move aides in special ed. So if you see the orange colored, that means that we're like right there where we should move that aide. We should have just 1 there, and then we should move 4 to aid in pre-K out of those 5 that were at the elementary. And then in special education, we should move 3 of the aides from the junior high to the high school, and to move the aides in the elementary school. Now, however, special ed is actually not done by percentage of students. It's recommended that way, but it's all dependent upon what the R group says. So if we have, like, in case you have kids who are high needs and may need 1-to-1 person, we are that person there. So even though the number of kids that we have that have those needs, we've got to meet their needs, and the overall CISD study doesn't take that into account. And their ideas towards special education were to consider 1 special education aide being redirected at the high school, and absorbing 3 aides for life skills and autism programs at both the junior high and the elementary school. And to consider the absorption of 1 special ed teacher at CES in the life skills autism program. But again, both of those are determined by the number of kids that enroll. So the recommended benchmark is 4-to-1, and right now we are 2.3-to-1. So this is kind of how it looks, and it tells you our overall special education population at each campus. We are about 15% for the district. The highest needs area is the junior high, which is where they said we're overstaffed. And then these are all the disabilities that you could have for special education, and it has our numbers for each of those. And the only area that I see that we are over with, higher on, is just the learning disability. If you look, the state average is 31%, and Columbus ISD is 46%, which is very high. We're lower in autism, we're lower in health, we're slightly higher in intellectual disability, but we're considerably higher in learning disability. So that might, and we're higher in emotional disturbance too, but learning disability is the one area that really sticks out. We're much higher. So this is the staffing that we have by program and what they have, what our current staff has. We have total number of, you can see the second column to the end, has the total number at each campus for special ed minus the 1-to-1 ratios. And this is what they're recommending, the projected staff. So the changes you can see, if you look at where it says the aid, if it's in parentheses, that would be a removal. And if there's a number in the aid position, that would be an addition. So they're saying that at the high school we need to add 1 aid in resource, and remove one from the junior high. And then in life skills and autism, we're to remove, their recommendation is to remove a teacher and the paras at both the junior high and the elementary school. Now, these are, again, recommendations. We're not saying that this is something we need to do. So I did want to show you this because this kind of tells you what we should have according to their benchmarks. So they recommend that we have 3 diagnosticians, and they said, well, you really, with 3, you're slightly over. You're doing 80%, you're working at 80% capacity, not 100%. You should have 2.4 diagnosticians, and I don't know how to do that. So we're just short. I mean, it is what it is. And then the same thing with speech pathology as an assistant or a speech assistant or a speech pathologist. They said we're working at 80% capacity, that we only have 1, but you need 0.8 of each. So in those cases, there's really no adjustment we can make. If we would remove a diagnostician, then we would be over. Our loads would be too high. Because if you look at our current number of students, which we added a diagnostician this year, they said the average caseload is 80 to 85, and we have right now, our diagnosticians average 80. So we are right on where we should be. So saying that we would remove something like that, one would actually increase the load and put us well over the benchmark caseload. And if you look at our speech pathologists, what they said we're working at 80%, we're actually in the sweet spot. Our caseload is right in the middle of the benchmark caseload. So in truth, in looking at the data, I felt we're very efficient in this right here. Our elementary teachers, they said to consider the absorption of 5 elementary teachers through attrition. So the idea here is that no one is going to lose a job. The idea is that if somebody retires, we may not need to necessarily make the replacement. So their idea is that we need to increase the size of our classrooms to 22 to 1, which is the ratio in the state. For anyone from pre-K to 4, grade 5, the ratio is 25 to 1. Well, our ratios in kindergarten are 15.6 to 1. We are well below the state average, well below peer averages. You can see where our ratios are compared to the states. And we are, actually the ratios that they share are not as accurate. So they also sent this, and this kind of tells you what our actual ratios are. So pre-K is a roll of the dice, right? Because you really, you have no idea that these kids are coming, and you don't know how many kids you're going to have when school starts. This year we have considerably less than we've always had, and tell me if I'm wrong, Shanna. But a lot of it is because of COVID, and at the time, we had said the first 2 weeks, hey, we're going to go hybrid, and then we're going to bring everybody back. But a lot of parents have opted to keep their children home, so our pre-K numbers are considerably lower than they have been. They're anticipating that next year our numbers would be exactly the same, and if they were, they would recommend that we have 1 less pre-K teacher. We're anticipating that our numbers will be increased to where it was last year, which was over 100. So if you look at our kindergarten numbers, we're at 121, and with 6 sections, our average is about 20 kids per section. So what we should be able to read is, and I'm looking at grade 4. So grade 4, we have a very low number. We're 16.3 to 1. Now remember, their benchmark is 22 to 1. And that group of 98 will be moving towards grade 5 next year, right? So they anticipate that we'll probably lose 1 child. But if you look at the difference, they said, well, you certainly don't need 6 teachers in grade 5 because the grade 5 ratio is 25 to 1. And if we kept 6 teachers there, our ratio would be closer to 16. So they said you could easily make do with 4 teachers and be efficient. So if you look at the models, like 3rd grade is 87, and next year they anticipate that there'd be 1 less. And and we have 6 4th grade teachers, so they recommend that you only need 4. So it gives Shannon the flexibility of being able to move a teacher who is a grade 5 teacher to another class, another grade level if needed. So the idea is what we want to do is try to get our class average closer to 22. Our class average right now is about, I guess, 17. And our 5th grade class closer to 25. Our class average there is just under 17. So at the junior high, they said to consider the absorption of 4 junior high teachers also through attrition. Again, we try to work our level to 22 students per class. And they said, you know, you don't have any, you have no parameters in junior high. The only place you have parameters is at the elementary. They said if you just went up to 24-to-1 ratio, which is an increase of 2 per class, you could save 6 teachers. So they sent us an idea of our theoretical, our current class average is right now is about 18, which is bigger than the elementary school. But they said, you know, we should be looking to be more streamlined to get towards 22. These are our numbers compared to our peer districts. And if you see, we're relatively close. We have our English classes have actually more students in them than our peer districts. Our math classes are lower, but both our science and social studies classes are higher than our peer districts. So we're really not that far off one way or another. The overall teachers to number of students is very close to our peers. We're 0.1 away over. And the number of students per teacher is slightly lower. We are at 12.7. Our peer districts are 13.3. But here's what they're recommending with the savings, so you can see that. If we changed our master schedule to reflect a class size of 19 as opposed to 18, we would be able to go down 1.5 teachers and save the district $78,000, which could be repurposed to be in a variety of other ways. And if you look at, their recommendation was to move to 22. So if you look at the line, this is 22-to-1, 22-0. Our teachers would teach 6 out of 7 periods. The average that they would probably have in their classroom is probably about 18, but it would save us from, if 4 teachers left, we would not have to necessarily replace them. It would save the district $200,000. The teachers' overall student load would be 132. And at the very least, at the very end, you can see that they said, hey, if we decreased our numbers or increased our numbers to 24-to-1 to a classroom, the overall savings would be $286, almost $300,000. And the overall number of students that a teacher would see is about 144. 144 may seem like a really big number, and I can tell you in 30 years of education, I never had 144 students. I was always 160 to 180. So it seems like a big number for us because we're at 114, but in reality, it's not. So that shows you the projected baseline and how much the district would save. So you'll be able to see that in the actual survey. So at the high school, they said to consider the absorption of 8 CHS teachers through attrition, which would provide us an overall average of 22 students per class. If we raised it to 25-to-1, we could save up to 11 teachers. So our current class average is about 17, and our theoretical class average is 17-to-1, because sometimes you have more than 1 teacher in a class. And if you look at our numbers are lower than our peer districts. But the area to really see is our teachers per 100 students is pretty much equal to what our peer districts have. So high school is a different animal because you're really at the mercy of what you teach and what you offer. And the more things you offer, the more specials you have, the more difficult it is to have a teacher who can teach art and music and a science class. And it really, you don't find those people. So it's not as easy as saying, hey, we could put a number to a class at the high school. However, they said if you could, if you looked at it, if we increased our class sizes, that those are the actual savings. If we increased our class sizes to 25 to 1 based on an average teacher salary, the savings would be well over $500,000. So, again, I want to share, our intention is not to remove anybody, or that our intention is to look at this and to say, if somebody, there are some things that a lot of principals have said, hey, I'd really love to have a technology person in my school. And we're saying, well, you know what? If we didn't rehire that teacher to teach that subject, you could use that person to teach technology. And there you go. And so without having to add money to the budget, we can make a lot of things happen. On maintenance staff, I know that a lot of us have always said, hey, we want to get things done and fixed, and what we noticed is that their first thing was that we are understaffed in maintenance, and that's why it takes a lot. And they said they recommend that we have 9 maintenance people. We actually have 4. So their way to combat this, they said, if we were able to to hire a worker and not send stuff out for contracted services, we would save. Last year we paid $90,000 for contracted services. We could hire 2 workers, right, to be to take who can do those things, HVAC and save the money. So we have the money to do that, and we'd still be below where we have to be. So their advice is, hey, you need more maintenance workers to do what you need to get done. If you stop spending money on contracted services, and we're able. Now, we have constantly looked for people, and the problem is not that we're not offering it, we just don't have a lot of people that have applied. And this is what they had recommended, what we have, that they said we should add a general maintenance worker, but we don't have an HVAC technician, and we should add it. We should lose 1 general maintenance worker and add an HVAC technician, a plumber, electrician, a carpenter, and painters. Now, our thing is that if you're an electrician, we can't pay you what you can make in the world. So it's awfully tough. I mean, that's pie in the sky, if you ask me. But we are right on with our grounds people. So it's just that we need to, their recommendation is that we find at least 1 or 2 more general maintenance workers. And they recommend 4, which would get us close to where we would be for national staffing. And we looked at what other districts have, and we are, we're at 5. We're below, and that's including Kenny, right, the director of maintenance. But we are well below any other district. And if you look at the districts that are closest to us, it would be Goliad and George West, who have almost 400 students less than we do. And they still have additional maintenance workers within them. So at the very least, we need to be able to add at least 1 and possibly 2. But again, if we stop contracting out, it's easy. And it may be, in fact, a saving. Custodial staff, we have, they said we are understaffed with custodians. We're often wondering why things haven't been cleaned as well as we would like them to be cleaned. And they have a standard, which is called level 2 for ordinary tidiness. And the average staffing level for a standard space is 1 custodian per 19,000 cubic square feet. So I asked Kenny this year to provide me with a map of all the, taking care of all the grasses and the lawns, and I want to know when we're cutting grass. I also want to know who's responsible for cleaning certain areas of each campus. And Kenny did that for me, and we used that data to send to CISD. And they said, well, the recommended area is 19,000 cubic square feet. Our current staff does 31,262. So we almost double, we expect them to do double the work, which is why it's so difficult to keep everything clean. Adding just 2 staff would bring us closer to the benchmark and would lower us to almost like 22,000 cubic square feet. Child nutrition is another area, and they said that, hey, we have enough staff, but you might want to consider how you employ the staff. There are ways to be more efficient. And they actually measure it by meals per labor hour. And I'll explain it to you so you'll see it, but they say that the nationwide target for meals per labor hour is 22 at the elementary, 20 at the junior high, and 18 at the high school. At our high school, we're at 7.3, so we are well below the 18, which is where we should be. At our junior high, we are at 5.8, which means we are, well, 4 times inefficient to where we should be at 20. And at the elementary, we're about half of where our efficiency is about half. So what does this mean? So let me do my best to explain it. And, how they actually determine this is they take the average daily meal equivalent, so the amount of meals that you make at each campus, and they divide it by the number of hours in a day that we have workers there. So you take 220 meals divided by 30 and you'd get 7.3. That's where they get their average daily meals number. Well, that's what the actual meals per labor hour equals. They say we should be closer to 20 for all of us, and we're at 11.3. So Scott and I were just talking, and we said, well, you know, what is it? Do we need to sell more meals? Is that the easy fix? If we sell more meals, and it's really not that. Do we need to employ more people? Well, no, we have to do the exact opposite, right? And it's really, but you can't make it work in that way. I mean, you can't have less people to make it more efficient. But it's the amount, because you have 3 people at the junior high. If you have 2, you're not going to be able to get it done. It's the amount of time that they spend. Whereas I think Columbus, Scott, we're 8 hours a day?
8-hour day with 30-minute lunch.
8-hour days, 30-minute lunch. So I will tell you that in every district that I've been in, it's not 8 hours. It's much like 6 hours a day. And if you did that, you get yourself much more efficient. So that's their recommendation, is that, as you can see, is that our target, we should be around 18. And you do that by lowering the amount of time that you spend to do that. So that there's no time where you're not doing any. If you look at the average that we have with our peers, you know, we are at 13 total workers. So it's not that we are, oops, let me show that again. It's not that we're understaffed at all, because we're not. If you look at everybody else, they're 13, some have 11, but they're smaller than we are. Right? Goliad has 13 and they're smaller than we are. So we are much less than Smithville, Tarkington, and Wharton, but they're much larger than we are. Right? They're 300 kids less, or more. So it's really about the amount of time that we spend in it. Because if you look at staff per 100 students, we are actually lower than everybody else. So we have less staff per students. So we're more efficient with our staff. We just need to be more efficient with our time. And in technology, they said that we should consider creating a staffing ratio based on the number of devices, users, and initiatives. So our staffing is actually based on, well, Zach and Lance, and we have tech people at 2 campuses. And that's that's well before we had a 1-to-1 ratio. Now we have 1,550 devices out that have to be serviced, fixed, and so they say right now we employ 3 employees. The average district is 3.6, and some of those districts are not 1-to-1. We're 1-to-1, and we're below them. So they said that we employ about 2 people per 1,000 students, but our peers have 2.3 per 1,000 students. So one of the things I asked Zach to do is to build me a 5-year plan to be able to have an instructional technologist on each campus, as well as a technician on each campus to be able to meet the needs of all campus admin and teachers and students. And I want him to do that without adding any money to the bottom line. So he has done that, and we can do it, but we do it through attrition and being able to creatively move people around. So our processes and procedures that they said that we should change. We should create a district staffing matrix for departments and campuses, and I don't believe we have one in place, which would provide a framework for adjusting staffing based on changes. And we are now meeting now it's going to start, I believe, in the end of January. Amber, am I right?
Yes.
With all campus admin to go through the staffing matrix for their needs and what we're trying to do. So this is going to be the first time we're doing this. It's going to be able to provide guidance and clarity for principals so they can actually staff, I think, more efficiently. So the idea is that we had never planned before, and what had happened is all of a sudden, we at the last minute, we've had to move things, and it's put us in rough positions. So we're trying to pre-plan now in January and February, so we're able to say, all right, this is where we're going to be, how many people do we have, and that way when we approve contracts in March, it should be based on our staffing matrix. So our look-aheads and costs, so this is just what they had recommended, that we could save the district $1 million if we absorbed our teachers and increased our auxiliary staff, which is a maintenance worker and 5 custodians. But we would absorb special ed teachers, we would add a counselor, and we would absorb 3 non-clerical positions in central office. And if we did that, we could still add 6 people and save the district $881,000. So again, this is a recommendation. It's not saying that we're going to do this. This is just an idea to show us how can we become more efficient. And obviously, the greatest area of efficiency is being able to increase class size or to rework our master schedule to be more reflective of the number of people that we have to teach. And we do know that we need to add people in auxiliary staff. I think there is no debate there. I think everybody is. So our projection, their recommendations, you just saw, and they said that we're not trying to tell somebody that you don't have a job. We're just saying, hey, this is a 5-year plan, reduced by attrition. If somebody retires, we may not necessarily have to replace them. We'd be able to move people from one place to another. They want us to evaluate the master schedules to make sure that our classes are meeting the needs. That if we have a small, so one of the hard things you have to realize, and Penny's going to have it's a very tough thing, because all of a sudden you have these kids that want to take an AP class, and we just, you might have 11 kids. Well, what do you do? And part of it is that you may be able to offer classes every other year. In Burnett, we had AP biology and we had AP chemistry, and we offered AP biology one year, AP chemistry the next. So that way you were able to, so every kid could get the AP class, but you didn't have to offer it every year, and that way you had 2 grade levels in that classroom. So you had juniors and seniors in that class each year, so you'd have 20 kids in the class, and that's why you were able to do that. So that may be something that we need to look at, depending if we have the personnel that can teach it. And again, this is a gradual implementation. We're not going to do, they recommend that we don't do anything drastic quickly, but it's just something that we can phase in 5 or 6 years. And for the first time, to use a district-wide staffing plan. That's kind of the idea. So I think that's, and you have the whole thing there for you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Well, it's just incredible data, because usually sometimes you may come in here and say that we just lost a science teacher or English teacher at the 5th grade level, and now you have a better way to look at it and go, well, hold on, let me look at my English teacher bullpen and see, okay, you're not panicking, you have a plan, versus we have to fill that immediately.
Yeah, that's good. Good data.
All right.
So anybody else, questions, comments?
Are you at all concerned about bumping the classes to that larger size? Do you think it'll affect
Yes,
our
I think so.
sports
So I
and-
think there are certain areas that we're not ever going to be able to do that. But if we increased even by 2, because some of our class sizes are very low. And Shannon and I have had the conversation. One of the things that we've always valued is that we keep our classes low. Well, other districts around us don't keep them as low. But what they do is they employ instructional coaches. And Shannon and I both had the conversation, boy, we'd love to have instructional coaches. Well, we can do that. The whole point of this is we can do that. But you may have to increase by 2 or 3 kids per class. And I know that the teachers want to have instructional coaches too. Well, there's the opportunity. Do you want to have instructional coaches or do you want to have small class sizes? We can get you the instructional coaches, but your class sizes have to. So I think it gives us the data to say, hey, we can do what you want to do. You got to meet us halfway too. It's not like we can just say, we got the money, we can do this. We can say, yeah, we can do it. Because Sealy has, I think, 9 or 10 instructional coaches. Now they're bigger than us, and I get that. But if they have 9 or 10, we very well should have 3 or 4. And what a difference it would make for Miller, or what a difference it would make for everyone to be able to have people who specialize in teaching a content to our teachers. I mean, it's about, well, Robert, I can tell you the importance in Katie of how many instructional coaches they have and why it's a big need. So that's how you say, yeah, we may have to increase your class size, but you have this. And if that's not the important thing, then, you know, it's give and take.
Okay, good job. Anybody else? Just no? All right, moving on. Item 6, consent agenda. A, approve board minutes from previous board meetings. Can I get a motion to approve previous board minutes? Scott moves.
I'll second.
Dorothy seconds. All in favor, signal with your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B, expenditures in excess of $25,000. And I figure that bill with this, Scott. Can we talk on that one? Or does that go all together?
You can put them all together. If it's agenda, we can do all 3 of them at once.
Okay,
Any
so
questions?
it's, okay.
So we can pull anything that you want. If there's something that you didn't want to, you wanted to talk about, we could talk about it, or we can just do all 3 of them together.
Okay, because we've always done them separate, so, okay, so we'll just, so consent agenda for all 3, that will be obviously the expenditures in excess of $25,000 and the budget amendment. So, so I need a motion to also approve item B and C as well. So, Scott moves. June seconds. All in favor with the raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Item carries. Moves us on to item 7, regular business action items. Discussion and possible action to approve the 2019-2020 annual audit report. Presenter, Bell Harris and Peacock.
In my vote, it's Pikachu.
Yeah, I think this.
In my vote, but they probably.
How is it? I'm sorry.
That's the Frelsberg version.
Pahacek.
Pahacek.
Yeah.
There we go.
Mike Brotherton, one of the partners at Bell Harris Pahacek. I'd like to start off by thanking Scott and the business office staff. Audits by nature are time consuming, very inconvenient, especially with all the challenges this year presented. So we appreciate all their additional time and assistance. Happy to report this year there's no management letter. That means there was no findings during the audit that needed to be communicated to the board. We've issued a clean, unmodified opinion. The unmodified opinion just means that we're giving our assurance that the financial statements are free of any material misstatements and that they include all the required disclosures. I'm just going to touch on a few of the financial highlights. It's a very straightforward report. Because of the pandemic, GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, they delayed any new accounting standards. So all the reporting, the accounting is going to be the same as last year. So the report should look very similar to last year, just with current year numbers, of course. If you want to start off we'll just start at the governmental fund level, so page 17.
The only thing I want to highlight here is the fund balance level. So towards the bottom of the page, you'll see that the district ended with a fund balance of about 9.9 million. Just over 8 million of which is unassigned, unreserved. The recommended rule of thumb for your fund balance, you want to see 25% or 3 months of your annual expenditures in unreserved, unassigned fund balance. Currently, the district's at 50%, and based on the total fund balance, you're at 62% of the annual expenditures. So that's a healthy-looking fund balance. If you want to turn to page 20 and 21, I'll just touch on the net operating results for the year. So the first column there, your general fund, third row up from the bottom, you'll see there was a net increase to your fund balance of $477,000. As you work your way across the debt service fund, you can see there was an increase of about $208,000. The other governmental funds, that's a decrease of $69,000. That's going to be your food service, child nutrition fund. So the net operating results for the year was an increase to your fund balance of $615,000. So the district started the year with 10.8 million, and ended the year with almost 11.5 million in fund balance. That concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Scott, that's pre-softball, right?
That's I can't remember the exact number, but it's got some of the softball in it.
Okay.
It's got everything except for 1.6 million.
August 31st.
Yeah, I want to make sure it's that way, Michelle and Robert.
Anyone else, questions? Okay, with that, we'll need an action to approve the 2019-2020 annual audit report.
I move to approve the 2019-2020 annual audit report as presented.
Dorothy, motions?
I'll second.
Brian seconds. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Letter B, discussion and possible action to approve the audit engagement letter for 2020-2021. Mr. Leopold?
Belt Harris project, we've had a good working relationship for quite a few years now, and just, going through some of the things, what the engagement letter has is the auditor reports on financial statements. They are combining statements and schedules, Texas Education Agency schedules, they schedule expenditures of federal rewards, and then just going over the objectives of the audit. This is what the engagement letter is about. Just kind of says what the objectives are. Want to have free from material misstatements, internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, and conducted with the auditing standards, generally accepted accounting standards in the United States of America, using the Texas Education Agency Financial Accounting System Resource Guide, government auditing standards, and the Single Audit Act amendments of 1996 and the provisions of uniform guidance. Also, just going over some of the audit responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements, perform tests of accounting records, appropriateness of accounting policies, again, free of material misstatements, test documentary evidence of supporting transactions, some of the non-audit services they provide, some of the things that aren't necessarily the audit, preparation of documents, financial statements, advisory services. They have a really great open line of communication. I can call if our auditor's not there, I can talk to somebody in their main office. Correspondence, regulatory agencies, professional proofing, appearance. So, if I may have a question, like when we were doing the softball field, committing the funds, I send it over and say, okay, how does this look? They'll look through it and see, what they think. The printing and binding that y'all see that y'all have a copy of, they also send an electronic Adobe searchable PDF that you have in your Google Drive, and then they have a client portal audit box, which made it really simple this year. I wouldn't say simple, but it made it easier because we didn't have a lot of face-to-face this year. So you can take their audit box, which you can take is I can take 10, 15 items that I scanned, and drop it down into their box, and it goes straight to my auditor. So it does make it simpler. I mean, it's still difficult, but it makes it simpler to be able to drop all those items together. Our responsibilities is maintaining effective internal controls. These are the things they ask us to do in the letter. Following laws and regulations, reasonable assurance of compliance, reliable financial information, because it's only as good as what we give to them. And so they ask for that. Access to all information, personnel, accounts, books, records, supporting documentation and persons. Adjust financial statements as needed. So, you know, got one the other day, right at the end of the audit, you know, it was like $178. She wanted me to adjust, but I had to go and find where that was. And so design a program and controls, identifying federal awards, maintaining a process of tracking the status of audit findings. And so the bottom line is the engagement fees. Just 2020 to 2021, the cost has not gone up. It's less than $1,000. And with all the things they were asking us to do more, I thought it was very reasonable on this one. Just for the financial statement audit, it's $25,178. Last year, this year's $25,870, difference of $692. For the TA filing fee options, $1,250, stayed the same, $1,250. Single audit base fee, $38.50. This year it's going to be $39.55, a difference of $105. And single audit per major program, $48.75 for 5,010 this year, difference of $135. It's only a slight increase, like I said, you know, but with additional requirements like ESSER being one of them. ESSER's one that, you know, they had to do a separate report, separate column on that one. Items that could increase cost assisting. Items that could increase the cost is assisting with items that were management responsibility. So if I wasn't doing my job, then they could increase the cost. If, you know, if they had to come in and do something part of my job. Hopefully that won't happen. Overtime hours created from a 60-day request. All of a sudden, if we came up and said, you know, we have to have our audit done, you know, in the next whatever Sunday, but I mean, we're doing the letter tonight, so we should be fine. And changes in pronouncements, in other words, changing what we want done, or if we have some problems, some allegations happen, and they got to come in and work on those, could increase those costs. But typically, I mean, I haven't seen very many increases to those costs. It's pretty much if that's what's in the thing. A lot of times with, you know, with Bell Hires Patrick, it's pretty much take whatever the cost they say. Any questions about the engagement letter?
Questions? Comments?
In other words, it's just saying we'd like to do it again next year. I mean, it's been going really well, and so why fix something that's broken, not broken?
All right, with that, we'll need a motion.
I move to approve the audit engagement letter for 2021 as presented.
Dorothy moves. Scott seconds. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Action item C, discussion and possible action regarding approval of intent to amend District of Innovation Plan. Ms. Berger.
Okay, probably a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, Jim brought to you the District of Innovation. Back in the spring of 2017, we approved a District of Innovation. And when we did that, basically just to recap what District of Innovation is, it just gives us local control of some things involving curriculum, instruction, governance, parent and community involvement, and school calendar and budgeting. So basically what this does is give us a little bit more control of some things that in those areas. When we came to you guys with it the first time as a District of Innovation, we came as the first day of instruction. So that's currently what our District of Innovation involves, is the first day of instruction. I will talk about that in a minute. The additions that we'd like to add: minimum attendance for a class or class credit or final grade, teacher certification for dual credit, hard to staff and CTE instructors, designation of campus behavior coordinator, extension of teacher probationary contracts, and teacher and administrator appraisals. I'm going to go through each one of these. This is the one that we currently have. I went ahead and left it on here just as a reminder. Texas Education Code section 25.0811, the law requires us not to start school prior to the fourth Monday in August. When we put this into effect, it's the reason why it allows us to be able to start school a little bit earlier in August. Helps us balance out those semesters, finish the semester prior to going to Christmas holidays. So it just gives us some flexibility. This is something that we already currently have in our District of Innovation. So what we're bringing to you next are 5 areas which we would like to amend our District of Innovation and add these 5 areas to it. Jim went over these, but I'm going to go over them again. We have met with our District Advisory Council multiple times, the DAC, and we have gone over all of these. We've approved them through that committee. I've talked about it, and I'm going to bring them to you tonight as a final plan. Now, your final plan, you guys will see this. I'm going over highlights. The final plan is in the Google Drive for the board, so if y'all want to look at the entire plan, it is there for you to view. So the first one is the minimum attendance for class credit. What the law requires is that the district awards class credit based on attendance. So the kids have to be in class a certain number of days. It's tough for some of our kids who do extracurricular activities and they're away from school for certain things. What this allows us to do is look at what the kids have been out for. It allows us to accommodate those students who have some legitimate scheduling conflicts. It gives us some flexibility there. It will not impact or alter existing compulsory attendance requirements or UIL rules. So the extended version of this is in that in the plan.
And what we wrote is that if a student is missing for a school function, so that could be anything from athletics to extracurricular to even FFA, that it's not counted against them. So if somebody misses 18 days just to miss it, then we're counting it. But if somebody's doing something on our dime for us, that we don't want to penalize the child for doing that. That's what it says.
And we want to not penalize those kids who are involved in that, and in hopes to actually get some of the kids to be more involved in some of the extracurriculars that they're not involved in already. The next one is the teacher certification. And this one right now requires our teachers to be certified in areas and pass specific content tests on grade level and subject areas to be determined as highly qualified. What we're asking for here is that if we have some areas of high need and we have certified teachers but they're not necessarily certified in a specific area, a campus principal is going to be able to submit a request to the superintendent to be able to allow this teacher who's not certified in that area of related field and be able to take a content area test in which they will, hopefully pass in order to be able to field some of those or fill some of those harder to staff areas that will help us with that. CTE is an area that we look at as well because looking at hiring people who have maybe health education background but not necessarily certified in that, we would be able to get them to pass a content test and be able to employ them in those areas.
So we have we would always love to be able to have certified health
Science and technology.
Yeah.
Science and technology, right? And we want to have, you have to be a nurse to teach the course and have your Texas teaching certificate. Well, if you find somebody that can teach that and do that, you hang on to them and you pay them whatever they want. We're saying, you know what? If a nurse wants to teach the class, and we have one class, why not allow the nurse to do it and give her credit for having her, she's degreed, she just doesn't have her teaching certificate. And that's what this will allow us to have the flexibility to do. It's huge.
The next one is a designation of a campus behavior coordinator. On this one, we are required by Texas Education Code to have one person on each campus designated to serve as the campus behavior coordinator. What we would like to do is kind of give us some more flexibility and be able to have more of a collaborative discipline program to support more kids. We don't want one person to be solely in charge of all of the discipline on each campus. We want other people to be able to weigh in and help out with the needs of our kids and just make it more of a collaborative approach. So, and it also will help us foster better school and parent relations. The next one is extension of probationary contracts. Basically on this one, it allows, the education code allows for probationary contracts for all new teachers for 3 years. And then any teacher coming into the district that is new to the district, but that has been teaching 5 out of the previous 8 years, right now only allows us to put them on a probationary contract for 1 year. What this innovation will do is be able to provide us the opportunity to put those teachers who come in with more years on a up to 3-year probationary contract. So let's say we've got a teacher that comes in, they struggle a little bit the first year, but we're not ready to let them go. We want to provide them some extra support. We want to make it work out and help them and support them a little bit. It allows us to extend that probationary time so that if we get to a point where we're like, after 2 years, this is not in the best interest of the district, we can let that person go without having them have a term contract. So basically, we've got them on a probationary for up to 3 years and not just the 1.
So, if I may, so everybody's new, they're brand new teachers, they're gonna be on 3 years.
Correct.
But if they taught 5 out of the previous 8, then you have the option to keep them on for 3 years. So if the first year, if they're a great teacher, you can give them a term contract.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it gives you a little flexibility.
Gives us a little bit more flexibility on people that may be struggling when they come into the district, and we want to offer a little bit more support without tying us into that term contract. And all current contracts are going to be grandfathered into this. So anybody who's come in new to the district this year that had taught in previous districts will be grandfathered into this. So we wouldn't be giving probationary contracts this year to anybody who was new to the district but has been teaching. The last one is teacher and administrator appraisals. The law states that standardized test scores or another student growth measure be used as evaluation measures of up to at least 20% for all teachers and administrators. So basically on their evaluation, we're evaluating them on standardized test scores. What we would like to do is have the flexibility to continue the current practice of things that we do already, and that's using various measures, including multiple observations, goal setting and tracking, and just looking at student growth process is toward learning objectives as well. Do you guys have any questions about any of those? Now, this is an amendment to our current District of Innovation plan. We will just be adding these 5 to the current plan.
So the way that it works is that we wrote the plan, you all wrote a plan 5 years ago, and we're adding these 5 to it. And we can amend it for the term of the original District of Innovation plan, which is, I believe, until next
Till the end
May,
of
not this May, but the following May. This will go into effect immediately. We send it to TEA, and TEA said, we've already got the plan, you've added these amendments. And so we can begin to use the 90% rule, I mean, all that stuff immediately. So we're just we already have the plan, so we don't have to do anything more, just send them, hey, this is how we amend it.
Questions? If not, we'll need to entertain a motion.
I'll move to amend the District of Innovation as presented.
Scott moves.
Second.
Robert seconds. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now go into closed session, and so this board will now adjourn into executive session as authorized by Texas Open Meetings Act, Government Code Section 551-.
You're live.
Okay. With no further action, the meeting is adjourned.
I figured I was gonna have one.